The debt crisis in China's real estate industry is impacting banks gradually. Since this year, the problem of halted construction and rotten residential buildings has been intensifying all over China due to broken capital chains. In recent days, the owners of unfinished properties have collectively decided to stop repaying their mortgages to the bank until the projects are fully resumed. According to a July 14th report by China Business Network, about 150 residential projects' mortgage suspensions have been reported in about 20 provinces and nearly 70 cities. And the mortgage suspension trend is getting stronger and stronger. Many owners who are troubled by unfinished buildings have followed suit, which is likely to continue throughout the country. Some analysts say that once the wave of loan suspension breaks out, it will not only have a negative impact on China's property market, but will also have a fatal blow to some local banks, which in turn will affect the stability of the whole financial system. The first group to stop their mortgage payment was the Evergrande Group's Loan Team property in Jingde Town, Jiangxi Province. The building has a total of 1,013 units, and more than 900 units have been sold since it opened on January 30, 2021. Due to the full-scale outbreak of the debt crisis of Evergrande Group, work was completely shut down at the end of May last year. It was resumed gradually in October under the instruction of the local government, but was shut down again on June 1st this year. After several rounds of ineffective protests, on June 30th, the owners issued a notice of compulsory mortgage payment suspension. They said that if Evergrande does not resume construction, the owners will collectively stop repaying loans to banks. The owners said that stopping the loan repayment is not the core demand, but a desperate move. The core demand is to complete the construction of the real estate as soon as possible. This notice of compulsory loan suspension notice quickly spread across the internet, and more owners of unfinished residential projects began to follow suit. Someone broke the news on Twitter that as of the morning of July 14, 227 owners of unfinished real estate in 24 provinces and municipalities have issued notices of suspension of mortgage payment, and this data is increasing rapidly. Unfinished projects in China are mainly concentrated in second, third, and fourth-tier cities. However, some owners of real estate projects in first-tier or second-tier cities, such as Shenzhen, Shanghai, Suzhou, Wuhan, and Nanjing, also jointly stopped loan payments. Analysis of the data shows that the province with the most loan cessation projects is Henan, where the crisis of village and town banks has recently occurred. The city with the most loan cessation project is Zhengzhou. The developer with the most loan cessation projects is Evergrande Real Estate, while the founder of Evergrande and former richest man in China, Xu Jiaying, is a native of Zhoukou City, Henan Province, and he has also become the most ruthless real estate developer. Last year, when Evergrande had its largest crisis, an organization had counted the unfinished real estate of Evergrande, and it was found that it is up to 1 million units. Statistics showed that last year there was 25,249 unfinished units in Zhengzhou alone, accounting for 29% of Zhengzhou's housing transaction volume last year. Zhengzhou City, which has experienced flooding and repeated epidemics in 2021, has seen more properties that have been out of construction for more than 1 year. There is no deadline to the house completion, but the mortgage has to be paid nevertheless, and the rent payments have to continue. Some owners even bought 2 or 3 unfinished units. In fact, before the owners of Evergrande Loan Team in Jingde Town issued a notice of decision to suspend loan repayments, many owners in Zhengzhou had already chosen to halt their payments. This decision was at the risk of being blacklisted for life by the banks. Let's look at a typical case. In December 2018, Ms. Lin, who had just graduated from university 2 years earlier, bought a house with a total price of more than 1.3 million RMB, using her own 2,000 RMB savings and more than 100,000 RMB from her parents, and also borrowed a portion of down payment through installment. Her house was developed by the company she worked for, Xinyuan Group, which was the first Chinese real estate company to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange in 2007. When Lin bought the house, it was at the highest point of the Zhengzhou property market. The unit price of the house was 14,800 RMB per square meter, and the mortgage interest rate was also a record high of 6.23%. The contract stipulates that the house will be delivered within 2 years. However, in the 2 years after buying the house, firstly it encountered China's property market regulation, then a global pandemic, and last year's sudden flood, coupled with strict environmental protection control. The Zhengzhou construction site had less than half a year of actual construction days in total. The most important thing is that Lin's house purchase money did not go into the bank supervision account at all. That is, the special fund account established for the Xinyuan International New City project. The funds in it can only be used for project development and construction, and the bank is responsible for the supervision of this account. Instead, they were directly transferred by the group to go to other provinces to buy land and develop new projects. Soon the project payment could not be fulfilled, and the project was almost at a standstill. At the beginning of 2022, Xinyuan has nearly 20,000 units in Henan province alone that had not been delivered, and Lin's job in Xinyuan is to deal with the owner's rights protection. She doesn't even know when her house will resume construction, but she has to assure thousands of owners for the company that construction will resume and ask them to please wait patiently. Most of these owners are young people who want to settle down in Zhengzhou City. Many of them have emptied the 6 wallets of both spouses and both parents to squeeze out the money. Some did not get married because the marriage house was unfinished. Some elderly people were so angry that they were hospitalized. It didn't take long for Lin to resign and join the Rights Protection Army in Xinyuan's unfinished building. According to Lin's estimation, only half of the projects in Zhengzhou's property market are currently under construction, and the property of many people she knows are almost all unfinished. By July, more and more neighbors in the owner's WeChat group began to stop paying their mortgage. Someone in the group said, "What should they do if it affects their credit score?" And someone immediately replied, "I can't even eat. Do you still care about the credit investigation?" For ordinary people, the consequences of becoming a defaulting creditor are very serious and are tantamount to social death. But for those who have nothing, not even hope, credit is worthless. Large-scale suspension of loan repayments will not only be a crisis for individuals and families, but a credit crisis for the entire market. Lin has consulted a lawyer about the consequences of loan suspension. She found that China's pre-sale system perfectly avoids the obligation and risk for the banks. If the developer does not do anything and she also stops paying, the bank would keep biting her for a mortgage without a physical building as collateral. But this is indeed unfair. The owner paid the down payment in accordance with the house purchase contract and also applied for the mortgage with the bank and repaid the loan on time, but still could not receive the house and ended up with his life savings reduced to nothing. The developer broke the capital chain and caused the project to collapse and defaulted on the contract in the first place. The bank also has a corresponding responsibility. According to the announcement letter of the owner of the suspended loan, firstly, the main structure of the real estate was not completed, but the bank already transferred the owner's mortgage payment to the developer, which was a violation of regulations. Secondly, the bank did not transfer the down payment and mortgage to the supervisory account according to the regulations and failed to fulfill the obligation of supervising the funds for sale. According to regulations, this part of the loan is designated to ensure the property is completed on schedule and has to be paid into a special supervised account, but the bank paid the money into the developer's general account. This allows the developer to easily withdraw the money for other purposes, such as debt repayment. Once the money in the regulated account is completely misappropriated, it will halt the entire construction of the property. For example, after the shutdown of Shanghai Sunac Future Financial City, the owners found that there was no money in the repayment supervision account and filed a complaint of Shanghai Rural Commercial Bank Chuansha Sub-Branch to the China Banking and Insurance Regulatory Commission. But the response was that the bank did not sign a contract with Sunac. In the fund supervision agreement, the account is not a pre-sale fund account, but a trust-based sales collection account. But Sunac said to the public that it was a supervision account. Moreover, Sunac did not credit the entire sales return to the account. But for developers with supervised accounts, banks also have their reasons. The following video is a conversation between the owner who stopped repaying their loans in Henan province and the bank. When the owner asked the bank staff whether the funds in the supervision account could only be used for the construction of the house, the staff responded, "Although the supervised account was in the bank does not have a say for when to transfer money to the developers and how much to transfer. The Real Estate Management Bureau of the Henan government has this right." In other words, developers only need to buy into the leadership of the real estate authority to transfer funds away. Of course, banks neglecting their responsibilities can also be a factor, but if you sum up the root causes of many social problems in China, it often points to the government, that is, the rule of the Communist Party.
如果楼房没封顶的话，监管账户里的钱应不应该还在监管账户？不确定。预售监管法这个钱就是因为账户现款，你这还是历史呢？
你说的对。按资金的拨付是要由郑州市房管局资金监管科或者是资金监管处，它有这么一个部门，他们允许拨付了，盖章了，拿出来东西了，我们作为监管银行才能把这个钱拨出去。换句话说，我们是听招呼干活的，这个意思很明确吧？如果他们不让拨，我们是拨不了的。
Hong Hao, a well-known financial analyst, estimates that the area of suspended construction is about 6% of the 10 billion square meters under construction in the real estate industry, and the total area is about 600 million square meters. From the bank side, if 600 million square meters of work is halted, the corresponding assets are worth 6 trillion RMB, measured at a price of 10,000 RMB per square meter. If all the projects are sold and the average down payment ratio is 60%, it corresponds to 2 to 3 trillion RMB mortgage loans. Based on 100 square meters per unit, it is about 6 million residential units. If you calculate 3 people per unit, about 20 million people suffer losses. Of course, it is unlikely that all the owners who bought these suspended or unfinished houses will choose to stop their mortgage payments. But according to the trend, if the authorities do not take effective measures, there will definitely be a wave of loan suspensions across the country. It is yet another blow to an already risky financial system and a threat to social stability that the authorities have repeatedly emphasized. The 20th CCP National Congress will be held this fall, with Xi Jinping widely expected to try to secure a third term in office amid China's declining economy and exploding financial risks. In a year of change, maintaining so-called stability is not only an economic issue, but also a political one.